Welcome back, you perfect humans. Today we're going to talk about rusty exhaust, and I'm going to show you 3 easy ways to accomplish these realistic effects. Let me quickly say something before we get too into depth here. If you're new around here, hit the subscribe button, that way you don't miss any new content that I put out in the future. It's free and it'll help me reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers. We have tons of awesome new content coming. Okay, let us begin, folks. In real life, rust appears in hundreds of various forms, which allows us modelers a chance to exploit this awesome opportunity. And since rust in real life is sporadic or unpredictable, that allows us modelers more leeway or inconsistency when it comes to rusting. Rust, in my opinion, is the single most powerful weathering effect. Okay, maybe it might be the second or tied with washes, because I think washes and rust combined generally make a model look realistic. Please also remember to do some research on what type of metal you're trying to mimic in exhaust. Different exhaust metals corrode differently. You want to be sure you know what kind of metal you're corroding, because titanium and aluminum, they oxidize. Here you see the large variety of items that I use. Now typically per model I only use 1, 2, 3 or 4 of these at a time. I don't use the whole lot at once. But many of these can be used in conjunction with each other and some can't. So I'm going to show you the whole lot now so you get an idea of what I typically use to rust. Now it's not essential you use each one of these types of products, but having 1 or 2 or 3 of them on hand will definitely get you off on the right foot. I typically keep my enamel thinner in a little squeegee bottle and get a variety of brushes readily available and a fresh palette. So let us begin. Okay, this is by far the easiest exhaust we're going to do. This one only requires 2 colors, and we're going to use pigments to establish those colors. Then we're going to use the soot powder to get the black soot color on the end. Most kits don't have exhaust fully drilled out or molded, so in most cases you're going to have to drill it out. So I'll show you a few different ways throughout this video on how I drill out my exhaust tips. It's pretty simple and it adds that realistic effect that we're after. You don't have to do this, but in my opinion it looks way better when you have some depth down your pipe. I always brush it away once I'm done, and then I polish the tip off with some cement, and I just use Mr. Cement S. Next I get my pigments ready, and I just use enamel thinner to bind the pigments. Now I pre-primed my exhaust a dark gray, and the method I'm trying to do here is lightly apply the pigments with the thinner, and that way it's going to leave some of the dark gray exposed underneath. And you do find a lot of exhausts like that, the metal slowly still showing through underneath and the rust is slowly taking over. So this is one of the many methods I'm going to show you, because as you know, there's many methods to do rust. So lightly get both colors. I always try to use at least 2 colors when I'm rusting something. You'll see later on that I do use just 1 color for something to just show you it's easy enough. But as you see, 2 colors always look good. Now when it's wet, it does have a darker effect, and you see now that it's dried and cured, it gets much lighter. And I just lightly apply weathering powder now. This is not like a pigment, it applies at the end when you're done. You can see it's like a dusting powder. Here I have it mounted on my RSO. My RSO is almost complete, but for this video I decided to do the exhaust to show you guys the exhaust on it. Now we're going to get into the next one, and this is just a rusted top surface. So for this style of rusty exhaust, we're going to start off by painting it with a couple of acrylics. Once they cure, we're going to paint it with some enamel and then put on some pigments. So follow this step and watch how I do it. Sorry this segment turned out blurry, but for this method now, the muffler was black and I painted it two different brush colors, and they're just acrylics that I showed earlier. This method uses a total of 4 colors, not including the black. So in my opinion, again, the more colors you use, and the different colors, the more realistic it looks. Now with these pigments we're going to add on, I waited until the first 2 acrylic layers were cured, otherwise this won't work. So make sure your first 2 layers of acrylics are cured. Now I use panel line enamel by Tamiya, and I use this as my base for my pigments. It's brown, and I applied the pigments while it was still wet, as you can kind of see the gloss hitting it, and the reflection of the camera there of the light. As the powders go on, you can see that it starts getting, I guess, a flat surface, so you can't see too much of the gloss from the Tamiya enamel anymore. The Tamiya enamel is working as our glue, and it's just a brown colored glue. So as of right now, we have 5 different colors of rust on our muffler. Now keep in mind, when you're mounting your muffler, you want to do dark spots in certain areas and light spots in others. Here you see me using the enamel to bind the pigments to the top surface of our muffler, and this will give us that 3D effect of rust coming off the muffler. Here again I use a powder, not a pigment, and this is just for the soot coming out of the end of the muffler tip or exhaust tip. Now depending on what method you're after, because some mufflers are still in operation, you want to make it look like they're being used, but not falling apart essentially. So some different angles in the sun show you how this effect turns out. And again, don't be afraid to try different methods here with other ones throughout the video. Alright, so this is another different exhaust I did. As you saw before, it was just too plain. It didn't look authentic to me. So for this one, we're going to use some weathering powder and oils. Unfortunately, the oil segment of the video I lost, so what I did is reenacted the procedure I did. So here I am hand painting muffler gray, and now I'm gathering some black or dark brown oil and some purple-ish colored rust. That's way too much rust powder. So the powder I poured there was a powder, rust, and this is a pigment. And the pigment I am mixing with oil, and the oil is burnt umber. And what I'm doing is creating a dark purple rust where the muffler and the exhaust pipe join. And then I just clean my brush and use the enamel to wipe out the extra paint that I don't want. The powder I only put on the muffler. So this is another effect here. And this I did when the model was built. So here's a bonus for you guys. This is all structure related stuff now. This is a mining operation that I was working on, and due to falling aggregate prices, the mine was shut down. So this mine was under construction about 5 years ago. Some things there are scratch built, and now that aggregate prices are starting to rise up here, we're gonna get the mine back into action. So as you see, I keep a bunch of sprues, and the reason I do this is either for stirring or potential exhaust stacks. So I find some good candidates, and I remove any excess plastic that would make the sprue look unrealistic, I guess. And again, we're gonna have to drill out some exhaust holes, and the deeper the better, because if you just do a millimeter or a 32nd of an inch, it's not going to look too realistic. So try to go as deep as possible. That way it adds a lot of depth in the middle space. Again, clean it out, polish it up, and once you're ready, I started, for this process I only used acrylic and airbrush. So I wanted you to keep that part in mind too. These are other screws that I cut out, and again, just cut off your excess plastic and prep them for making them look like an exhaust stack, essentially. Because if you leave extra plastic on there, it's not going to look like an exhaust stack. I'm telling you, you could turn a bunch of free little plastic into a bunch of little exhaust stacks, and you can't go wrong. So don't throw away your plastic, you guys. Try to keep it, and you never know when a rock quarry is going to start operations again, and you have to exhaust that diesel fuel somewhere. So especially mining equipment, they require a lot of various exhaust stacks for different reasons, and for fire hazards and for motors, and so it's a good opportunity to make a few different types of stacks. So this one here I only painted rust. I just wanted to do an all rust to show you guys, whatever, you can do what you want. This one I did the same color rust, then the exhaust, but then I came back and did the other color rust. Again, I tried to use two colors and kind of tighten up that black line. And then once they're dried, I just glued them all into the structures. Pretty simple. So as you see here, I was gluing it near the motor, and it wasn't going to glue vertically, so I just laid down the vertical crusher on its side. Here I'm drilling out the tank top, and that way I get my exact spot. Now that bar above, that's where the exhaust stack has to essentially hit. It's basically a rock protector. There should be a shield there too. And without the shield, as you can see, it's going to protect it from rocks. Alright, and the last one that's all rust, I just put up onto the building there. Now this is going to be the last part of the video, and yeah, we're going to be airbrushing still, but we're also going to throw in some hairspray to get some real rusting chipping effects. So let's do this last part. You guys, I just want to say thanks for sticking through this long video about rust. If you liked what you saw, please throw me a like. If you want to learn more about things coming up, please subscribe and hit the notification button. That way you know when we have new stuff coming out and you don't miss anything. If you want to be the first to know about stuff, check us out on Instagram now at Scirocco Models. Also, you can check us out on Patreon. So if you want to help us out, and I'll leave a link in the description below for that. Yeah, that's how we're gonna grow our channel. Keep on keeping on, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.